I'll just shout, oh no, you can't hear me. Please join me in welcoming Lisa Joy. Yeah. I think I'll just start by saying thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being at MAMI. Thank you for being in Mumbai. It is lovely to have you.
It's such a pleasure to be here. It is a lifelong dream to visit India, and so I've been making the most of it. I've traveled all over the country. It's great.
Are you ready to drop some wisdom?
Well, I can drop my version of experience, which might be wisdom. You can learn from my failings.
I want to start by talking about world building, which is a term that gets thrown around a lot, and not enough is said about sort of what that tangibly looks like. But I want to start by quoting something you said, and I think the session is going to be a lot of quoting you back at yourself, so I apologize in advance. You said the magic of a really great movie or really great TV series is that they never lose their luster, and they still have the ability to leave you awestruck with wonder and make you think, no matter how old you are when you watch them. And I think your work in particular really encapsulates that, because you really transport us to these fantastical, often futuristic worlds, whether it's through Pushing Daisies, which is where you started your career as a writer, whether it's through your show on Amazon, The Peripheral, which you're a producer, whether it's through a little show you guys might have heard of called Westworld, which you co-created, whether it's through Reminiscence, your film from 2021 starring Hugh Jackman. And I want to talk about Reminiscence and Westworld in particular, because they're such richly realized, very visual worlds. And with Westworld, to put it very simply, it's about a futuristic world where robots are gaining sentience. Reminiscence takes place in a dystopian future where cities are sinking and the world has gone to shit and people get around by boat because of climate change, and people are sort of living in the past and choosing to relive their memories because there's no hope left in the real world. So when you're ideating and imagining these worlds, what does world building really look like? How much detail are you really capturing on paper and sort of in deciding what these worlds look and feel like and how they function?
I think it's funny because I'm a terrible, terrible actress. The last time I acted in anything, I played broccoli in a school play. I was literally a vegetable because I'm scared of acting and rather stage fright. But I do think that when you're writing, there's something about being a sort of theoretical actor. You sit there in your mind, clothed in the body of a different character from a faraway land, or it could be a different gender, it could be, from the future or the past. And for me, world creation is about inhabiting the eyes of that character and looking around at the world, and seeing what's there. So I kind of do it from a very micro to macro way, and I think also I do a lot of research, read a lot of philosophy, look at other people's works, but I think to create the future or any kind of world that is believable, you have to look at the trajectory of the now and see where it's going. I do think that it's impossible to create any near future scenario without taking into account global warming. It seems like a heightened conceit in Reminiscence, but it's not so heightened. I had my honeymoon in the Maldives, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to go back there for my future anniversaries. So I think it's just a combination of that kind of projection of self mixed with study.
But if we were a fly on the wall watching you in this process, what are we looking at? Is it endless typing? Is it sort of massive whiteboards covered? Like, what does that really look like when you're creating work?
It looks like a madhouse. It looks absolutely bonkers. So I like to draw a lot when I'm breaking, and I also think there's a certain rhythm or shape for me that a story has. People talk about the 3-act structure. It looks like this, but I think you can also feel like in music, right? There's a verse and there's a chorus and there's a pre-verse. There's something almost a priori about the way in which we look forward to, oh, there's going to be an inversion here or a minor key, and you don't necessarily know what it will look like, but you can feel this tide that says, oh, some shift could happen here. And if it doesn't, the story gets slow, or it's time to learn something new about a character. To me, it's about feeling some kind of rhythm in a story. And of course, the best stories find new places to interject new rhythms and subvert expectations, and that's wonderful, you know. But the way that I do it tends to be because I'm visually oriented, and also I like to doodle a lot, which helps me for some reason. I feel like my pen is moving even if my mind has stopped creating words. So I use a whiteboard for the most part, and and draw over that. But when we were doing Westworld, I was pregnant when we started breaking it. And we had this one room that was supposed to be the nursery, but at that moment had nothing in it. And we filled the whiteboard, and then we just kept filling more and more papers and taping them to the walls, and then we taped them to the windows, and by the time we were done, the entire room looked like an insane asylum because it was just plastered in papers everywhere with different strings of causality and different timelines. You know, we thought of it as though we were making a watch, you know, where all the gears have to move together. So even though sometimes you wouldn't see some of the thinking on screen, I think in order to find the story, we had to do a lot of extra work imagining, you know, what are the loops of the characters that play the robots? You know, like where does the storyline within this go? Where does Hector intercept with this and that and this and that? So we had a whole kind of meta story broken. And then over that, we put what happens then when you have this clock that's smoothly running and then something like sentience starts to develop and corporate shenanigans and things like that. And from there, we layered out versions of the stories and of course timelines.